Oh, what an absolute mess. This is what I experience pretty much every single time I go away camping. So let's get into the workshop and see what can be done about that. What's up guys, welcome back to the workshop. Today's project's nice and simple, and that's to build a simple storage solution for the slide out pantry to hopefully stop all the contents from jumbling themselves around like all the fruit and veggies in that old McCain's ad. So let me run you through my rough plan. So this is a top-down drawing of my pantry shelf, pretty much to scale, and this is everything that I want to store on this shelf. So what I'm going to do now is take all this stuff and position it roughly where I want it on the shelf to then work out where I want to put the dividers to build this organizer. Okay, that's pretty much where I want everything to live on that pantry shelf. I've actually got a bit of extra room than I initially thought too. I suppose when everything's actually organized correctly, you get left with a bit of bonus space, which is nice. So for now, I'll probably just store my sugar in this open section here, but it's always good having more space than not enough, because when you go away, you might pick up something extra that you need for that particular trip. And it'd be good to have this empty bit of space as available real estate to store those odd bits and pieces. Next step, I'm going to actually mark out where I want those dividers to sit on the diagram, and then I'll get into actually building them. Okay, all finished with this absolute masterpiece of a plan. So basically I've worked out that I need 4 internal dividers, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's going to allow me to store the stuff that I laid out earlier. But I'm also going to be making 2 edge pieces, 1 to go on either end. And the main reason for that is that I want this entire storage system to be modular in the way that I can take it in and out of the pantry as I need it. Just in case my plans change down the track and I want to put something different in its place, I'm not actually doing anything permanent to the pantry. It's kind of going to be built as a standalone unit. I've also worked out the exact shape and dimensions that I want my dividers to be. So that's what they're going to look like, obviously ignoring the cutoff piece here. It's going to be 6 of those with a base, front and a back as well. Anyway, that's the very rough plan. Time to get over to Bunnings and buy the pieces we need. So I've decided to make the dividers out of this super thin aluminium sheet for a couple of reasons. The first is that this thing weighs nothing at all, so I'm not going to be adding too much weight to the pantry. And second of all, being so thin, it's not going to occupy too much space on that pantry shelf, which is already pretty small. It is a little bit flimsy, a little bit weak, but that shouldn't matter too much for this application, because all it really has to do is just stop stuff from falling into the next section. Anyway, let's mark out these dividers and get them all cut up. Okay, there we have 6 matching dividers, all a pretty uniform size, so I'm happy with the consistency there. I am having to go back through now with a pair of pliers and just fix a few of the mishaps left by the jigsaw. That's the only problem with cutting thin metal with a jigsaw like that. Because it's like an up and down sawing motion, it does tend to catch the thinner metal and kind of warp it out of place. So you can see there's a bit of bent over metal on the corner. Pretty simple fix. I'm just coming in with a pair of pliers and just pulling that edge straight again. It's not the end of the world, because I am planning on putting a bit of rubber stripping around the edge to finish it off, but it is nice just to pull it straight like that. So once I've straightened all the edges on those, I am going to make a wooden base for these metal dividers to slid into. So I've got myself a relatively thin piece of wood here. I'm just going to basically make a floor the same size as the pantry shelf. Then I'll cut some grooves in that floor so those dividers can sit in like so. Okay, that base piece is all finished. So I hand cut 6 channels for the dividers to slot into. It's a new system that I haven't really experimented much with before, but hopefully it works out well for this application. I've also given it a quick coat of black paint just to make it look a bit nicer. And we're ready for those 6 dividers to slot in. Okay, there's the 6 dividers all sitting in place. Obviously they're fairly flippy floppy at the moment, but that'll be fixed as soon as we put a back and front on this. Speaking of the front, I knocked up this while the paint was drying. It's just a piece of aluminium the same as these dividers that I've put this rubber edging around the edge of. It just gives it a much more finished and more professional look, I suppose. Alrighty, we are all done. Finally, took a little bit longer than expected, but it's finally ready to go. All done, all finished, there she is. The reason this one took a little bit longer than I expected was I decided to make all these little brackets to hold the back beam and also the front plate on from scratch using a strip of aluminium angle from Bunnings. So that made the project take a little bit longer than expected. But got there in the end, all done. I'm pretty happy with how it's looking. Guess all that's left to do now is to go over and make sure it actually fits in the pantry. All right, you guys get to witness the first initial test fit. Could be a disaster if it doesn't fit the space, but we'll see how we go. Alrighty, moment of truth. Oh, it's gonna be tight. Yes, fits like a glove. Oh yes, I'm stoked with that. That's turned out better than I was expecting, which is nice. The metal kind of matches in with the rest of the pantry, which is a nice touch as well. I mean, it's not perfect, it's a bit of a homemade job, but so is the rest of the pantry, so I can live with that. That's gonna make storage so much more organized out on the road. Really happy with that. Can still access those little compartments easily, even with the pantry up. Anyway guys, hopefully that's given you a couple of ideas for your setup. Suppose I better get to actually putting all this stuff back into my pantry and making sure that everything that I custom designed these spaces for actually fits happily into its new home. I'm pretty happy to have this project out of the way now as well, because I'm planning on heading away in the next week or two to film another mini series for you guys. So stay tuned for that coming out pretty soon. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.